Happy 25th, Rachel, my father sneered, sliding a gift box across the table like he was throwing scraps to a dog. The whole family leaned in, smirking, waiting to see my reaction. My brother Kyle swirled his glass of bourbon, his smug grin stretching wider than ever. I tore the shiny paper slowly, the tension in the air sharp enough to cut skin. The box was light, too light. My chest tightened, but I forced my hand steady as I lifted the lid. Empty. Completely empty. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us, what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. The laughter that followed felt like knives digging into my skin. Dad, Thomas Morgan, slapped his knee. There it is. Just like you, Rachel. Empty-handed. We spent your college fund on Kyle's new house. At least he's doing something worthwhile. Mom, Elaine Morgan, leaned forward, her diamonds catching the chandelier light. Her voice was coated in poison. You should be grateful, Rachel. Be proud your brother is successful. Do you really think you'd make anything of yourself with that money? My stomach twisted, but I refused to show them pain. I let their laughter echo, let the cruelty cut deep, and then I smiled. Not the broken smile they expected, but one so calm it silenced the room. Thank you, I said softly. Almost too softly. The chatter died instantly. They weren't prepared for gratitude. Kyle scoffed. Thank you? Are you seriously that pathetic? I turned the box in my hands like it was a treasure. You don't realize what you've given me tonight. This isn't just an empty box, it's evidence. A signed confession. Proof that you stole my future and handed it to Kyle, right here in front of everyone. The room stiffened. Aunts, uncles, cousins, faces shifted from amusement to unease. Whispering spread like wildfire. Dad's face darkened. Don't twist this, Rachel. You've always been dramatic, always the victim. We gave you food, a roof that came with ridicule, food that came with conditions. I cut in, my voice sharp, slicing his excuses apart. You didn't give me a future, you robbed it. And now in your arrogance, you've admitted it in front of witnesses. Mom's jaw tightened. Watch your tone, young lady. You'll regret speaking to us this way. I stood, clutching the empty box like it was a weapon. My heartbeat thundered, but my voice was steady. No, Mom. For once you'll regret underestimating me. Kyle laughed nervously, trying to cover the crack in his confidence. What are you gonna do, Rachel? Cry about it on social media? Write a diary entry? I walked to the door slowly, letting silence drag behind me, the tension growing heavier with each step. Before leaving, I turned, locking eyes with them. You think you humiliated me, but tonight you handed me the one thing I've been waiting for my entire life. Proof. And I promise you, my smile sharpened. This is only the beginning. What you planted tonight will grow into something you'll never be able to bury. The door slammed behind me, the sound rattling through the house. For the first time, they looked shaken, and for the first time, I felt free. The cold night air hit my face like a slap as I stepped out of my parents' mansion. My breath fogged in front of me, but my chest burned with something hotter than anger. Clarity. For the first time in years, the fear I carried around them was gone. The empty box was still in my hands. I stared at it under the street lamp, the gold wrapping catching the light. Empty to them, but to me it was priceless. My family had just humiliated me publicly and, in their arrogance, admitted theft. They thought I'd walk away broken. But they didn't know me. Not anymore. I tossed the box into my car, slid into the driver's seat, and gripped the steering wheel. My reflection in the rearview mirror startled me. I wasn't crying. I was smiling. A dangerous, unfamiliar smile. Happy birthday, Rachel, I whispered to myself. Let's give them something to remember. The next morning, I didn't hide under my covers like they hoped I would. I marched straight into the county records office. The clerk, a middle-aged man with glasses perched on the edge of his nose, looked up as I dropped a folder on the counter. I need to file a claim, I said firmly. He adjusted his glasses, flipping open the folder. I had spent the night compiling everything, bank statements I had saved since I was a teenager, Paperwork showing deposits made into the college fund, and even old emails where my father bragged about keeping Rachel's money safe. The clerk glanced up at me. "This looks serious." "It is," I said, my tone icy. "My parents stole my college fund. Last night, in front of half my relatives, they laughed about it and admitted it out loud. This," I slid the empty box across the counter, "was their birthday present to me." "Their confession?" He raised his brows, clearly uncomfortable but intrigued. "If what you're saying is true, you've got a case for misappropriation of funds. Maybe even fraud since it was legally designated for you." I leaned in, lowering my voice. "Then file it. Every document you need is in that folder. I want this on record today." For once, someone nodded at me with respect. A week later, I walked into my job at a small law firm where I worked as an assistant. My boss, Claire Reynolds, was a sharp, no-nonsense woman in her 40s. She noticed the determination in my eyes before I even reached her office. "Rachel, close the door," she said, studying me. "Something's different about you." I dropped a stack of papers on her desk. "My parents stole my college fund. Used it to buy my brother Kyle a house. They admitted it in front of the whole family." Claire's lips tightened. "And you have proof?" I smiled for the first time without bitterness. "More than proof. I filed the claim already. But I want more than legal action. I want them exposed." Her eyes glinted with interest. "You want to win in court and in reputation?" "Exactly." I leaned forward, my voice low but steady. "They built their entire image on being this respectable, generous family. But underneath, they're nothing but liars who prey on their own daughter. I don't just want compensation. I want the truth out there. I want them to choke on the image they created." Claire tapped her pen against the desk, a smile forming. "You've got fire, Rachel. And you're smarter than they gave you credit for. I'll help you. But you need to be ready. Once this starts, there's no turning back." I nodded without hesitation. "Let's start." The first move wasn't loud. It was quiet, strategic. I began digging through every public record I could find on my family. Tax filings, property purchases, bank liens, and there it was, dozens of financial transactions my father had hidden. Houses bought in Kyle's name, business accounts quietly drained, charity donations that went straight back into shell companies my father controlled. Piece by piece, I built a map of their empire. And the more I uncovered, the clearer it became. My family wasn't just cruel, they were corrupt. And now, I held the blueprint of their downfall. 2 weeks later, they invited me back to the house, pretending like nothing had happened. The text from my mother was short and sharp. "Family dinner. Be here at 7. Don't embarrass yourself again. I showed up. Not because I owed them, but because I wanted to look them in the eye while the storm gathered." Kyle opened the door, his smirk plastered back on. "Well, look who decided to crawl back. Couldn't stay away from the people who actually matter, huh?" I brushed past him without a word, heels clicking on the marble floor. The dining table was set with crystal glasses, silver cutlery, the works. Dad sat at the head of the table, sipping wine like a king. "Rachel," he said, fake warmth dripping from his voice. "Glad you came. It's important for you to remember where you belong." I sat, folding my hands neatly. "Oh, I remember exactly where I belong. And soon, the rest of the world will too." Mom's smile faltered. "What's that supposed to mean?" I leaned back, calm and collected. "You'll see. Consider tonight. The calm before the storm." Their laughter was nervous this time. They couldn't tell if I was bluffing, and that uncertainty was delicious. As I left, I set the empty box back on the table. My father stared at it, confused. "Keep it," I said. "You're going to need it. It'll remind you of the night everything started to unravel." And then I walked out, leaving them rattled in their own home. On the drive back, adrenaline coursed through me, but it wasn't reckless anymore. It was focused. The girl they mocked on her birthday was gone. In her place was someone sharper, colder, unshakable. The Morgans thought they held all the power. But what they didn't realize was that the moment they gave me that empty box, they gave me the one thing they could never take back: leverage. And soon, the entire city would know who the Morgans really were. I didn't just want revenge anymore. I wanted justice, and justice was coming. The following week, whispers about the Morgans began to circulate. At first, they were faint, like the static before a storm. But I knew where they came from. Me. Every document, every shady transaction, every piece of evidence I had uncovered, I leaked carefully through channels that couldn't be traced back to me. An anonymous email to a journalist here. A brown envelope slipped into the courthouse there. Each move was precise, strategic. It didn't take long. By Friday, the first article hit the local paper. Real estate mogul Thomas Morgan under fire for questionable fund transfers. I sat at a coffee shop downtown, sipping my latte as the words glared back at me from the page. I couldn't stop the small, sharp smile tugging at my lips. For years, they had laughed at me, belittled me. Now the city was laughing at them. That night, my phone buzzed relentlessly. It was my mother. "Rachel, what did you do?" Her voice was sharp, panicked. "Do?" I feigned innocence. "I haven't done anything, Mom. Maybe the truth just has a way of coming out." Her breath hissed through the line. "You think you're clever? Do you understand what you're risking? This family's reputation is everything." I let a pause hang in the air before I replied. "Exactly. And now it's gone." I hung up before she could respond. For once, I was the one ending the conversation. But it wasn't enough. I wanted more. So I went after the one thing my brother Kyle cared about most, his new house. The house that had been built with my stolen future. I contacted the local zoning office with the documents I found buried in my father's files. Permits signed illegally, inspections skipped, corners cut. A week later, Kyle's dream home was slapped with violations so severe the city threatened demolition if he didn't fix them. He showed up at my apartment door, furious, his face red. "You did this," he roared, jabbing a finger at me. "You're jealous, Rachel. That's all you've ever been, jealous because you're nothing and I'm everything." I didn't flinch. I crossed my arms, meeting his rage with calm fire. "No, Kyle, I'm not jealous. I'm done. Done watching you steal what was mine. Done being your family's punchline. You thought that house was your trophy? Now it's your downfall." His fists clenched, but he didn't swing. He couldn't, not anymore. For the first time in our lives, I wasn't afraid of him, and he knew it. "Careful," I said softly, leaning closer. "This is just the beginning." He stormed off, slamming the door so hard the frame rattled. By the end of the month, my father's empire was unraveling. Business partners pulled out of deals, banks questioned transactions, and journalists kept digging deeper. The image of the Morgan family, the flawless, wealthy dynasty, was cracking wide open. One evening, I received a text from Claire, my boss. "Front page tomorrow. You'll want to see it." I barely slept that night. The next morning, I stood outside the newsstand, staring at the headline splashed across the front page in bold black letters. "Morgan family fortune built on lies?" Investigation exposes years of fraud. People on the street stopped to read. Some shook their heads. Others muttered in disgust. And me? I felt my chest rise with a sense of power I had never known before. I walked into the office, coworkers glancing at me with curiosity. They didn't know the whole truth, but they knew something was happening. Something big. Claire stepped out of her office, tossing me a copy of the paper. "You've lit the fuse, Rachel." "They're done," I nodded, gripping the newspaper. "Not done yet. They still think they can scare me back into silence. But I won't stop until they feel what I felt. Alone, humiliated, cornered." That night, my parents finally called me together. A family meeting. When I walked into the house, the air was thick with tension. My father sat at the head of the table, his hands folded tightly, his jaw clenched. My mother looked pale, her diamond bracelets gone, like she had stripped away the mask for the first time. Kyle was pacing, agitated. "Rachel?" Dad said, his voice controlled but cracking at the edges. "You've made a mess you don't understand. You think you're punishing us, but you're burning everything, including yourself." I met his eyes, unflinching. "No, Dad, I understand perfectly." You took my life, my future, my dignity, and laughed. Now, I'm just giving it back to you. All of it? Kyle slammed his fist on the table. You're destroying us. I leaned forward, my voice low, cutting through the silence. No, Kyle, I'm not destroying you. You destroyed yourself the moment you stole from me. I'm just making sure the world sees it. The room was heavy with silence. For once, they had no clever retort. No laughter, no smirks. Just fear. I stood grabbing my coat. This is just the beginning. And the next time we talk, it won't be around this table, it'll be in court. I walked out, leaving them staring after me in stunned silence. As the night air wrapped around me, I finally understood something. Revenge wasn't just about payback. It was about power. And for the first time in my life, the power was mine. The girl they mocked at 25 was gone. In her place stood a woman they would never forget. The courtroom was cold, the kind of cold that crept under your skin and reminded you that this wasn't a game. This was war, and I was finally standing on the battlefield I had waited my entire life for. Rows of spectators filled the benches, reporters scribbling notes, cameras flashing as the Morgan family shuffled in behind their lawyers. My father, Thomas, looked smaller than I had ever seen him. His face pale, his once confident stride shaky. Elaine kept her eyes down, no diamonds on her wrists this time, just bare skin and shame. And Kyle, he looked furious, like a man watching his empire collapse brick by brick. I sat at my table, calm, steady. My attorney, Claire Reynolds, adjusted her blazer and leaned toward me. This is it, Rachel. They're going to fight hard. Be ready. I've been ready my whole life, I whispered back. The judge entered and silence fell. Papers shuffled, whispers faded, and the trial began. Your Honor, Claire began, her voice strong and clear. This case is not about bitterness or family squabbles. It's about theft. It's about betrayal. My client, Rachel Morgan, was promised a college fund since the age of 12. Funds set aside legally in her name. And those funds, her future, were stolen and used by her parents to purchase property for her brother, Kyle Morgan. This is not speculation. This is fact. And tonight, the Morgans themselves will prove it. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The defense tried to paint me as dramatic, unstable, jealous of my brother's success. But then Claire stood tall, lifted the empty box wrapped in gold paper, and set it on the evidence table. On her 25th birthday, Claire said, her voice ringing across the room, Rachel was handed this box, empty. Her father laughed and admitted, in front of witnesses, that they had used her college fund for her brother's house. Her mother confirmed it, and every relative present heard their confession. That box is not just a cruel gift. It's a symbol. It is their confession. Whispers erupted again. The judge raised a hand for silence. Then came the witnesses. My aunts, my cousins, one by one confirming what they heard that night. Their faces were uncomfortable, but the truth came out all the same. Yes, one cousin admitted, voice low. Thomas Morgan said the money was used for Kyle's house. Elaine told Rachel to be grateful. With every testimony, I saw my father shrink further into his chair. My mother dabbed her forehead with a tissue, trembling. Kyle clenched his jaw so tightly it looked like it might shatter. Then it was my turn. I walked to the stand, the weight of every year of humiliation pressing on me. But I didn't tremble. I spoke clearly, my eyes fixed on the jury. For 25 years I was told I was less, that my dreams didn't matter, that I should be thankful for scraps while my brother was handed everything. On my birthday they laughed at me with this empty box, but what they didn't realize was that the moment they laughed, they gave me power. They confessed. They proved what I had always known, that to them I wasn't family. I was disposable, but I'm not disposable anymore. I'm here to make sure they never do this to anyone again. The silence that followed was so deep it hurt my ears. When closing arguments ended, the jury deliberated. It felt like hours, though it was less than one. My heart thudded in my chest as the foreman stood. We find in favor of the plaintiff, Rachel Morgan. The words washed over me like thunder. shaking me to my core. The judge's gavel hit the block. The court orders restitution of the misappropriated funds, damages to the plaintiff, and a formal investigation into the financial practices of the Morgan family. The room exploded with noise, reporters rushing for quotes, relatives whispering frantically. I turned, locking eyes with my family one last time. My father's face was pale, his lips trembling. "You've ruined us," he whispered. I stood tall, my voice steady. "No, Dad. You ruined yourselves the moment you thought I'd stay silent. All I did was turn on the light so everyone could see the truth." My mother covered her face, tears slipping through her fingers. Kyle muttered curses under his breath, but his rage meant nothing anymore. For the first time in my life, they were powerless, and I was free. When I stepped outside the courthouse, flashes from cameras blinded me. Reporters shouted my name, asking how it felt to defeat my own family. I didn't give them a statement. I didn't need to. Instead, I walked down the courthouse steps into the sunlight, the city buzzing around me. For once, I wasn't the invisible daughter. I wasn't the family's scapegoat. I was Rachel Morgan, the girl they tried to bury, the woman who rose from their betrayal, the storm they never saw coming. And as I walked away, I knew one thing. My story wasn't just revenge. It was rebirth. The empty box that once mocked me had given me everything, not just justice, power, freedom, and a future that finally belonged to me.